this is Liesie from Liesie's Bakery, and today I would like to guide you through my video of how I made this cake for a style shoot. So I shot this footage quite a while ago and decided that today is the day that I'm actually going to put the video together and put it on YouTube. The theme of the style shoot was a soft blue, like a duck egg blue, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was complemented with some ivory colors and natural greens. So the very first thing I would like to talk about is the bottom tier of this cake. I think the bottom tier is the most spectacular part. It looks like the lacy part of a wedding dress. So this mold I bought from Crystal Candy. It was made by Thulani and she is absolutely phenomenal. She makes these flowers and sculpts them herself, which then get made into molds, and Crystal Candy sells them. I'll put the link in the description for you. I used the same blue fondant that I covered the bottom tier in to paste into the mold. Simply use your fingers to squeeze it into every nook and cranny. I then placed the entire mold in the freezer for about 10 minutes so that it firms up. After that, it just peels out of the mold. It's so easy and it looks gorgeous. I then continued to place this lace all around the bottom tier of the cake. This then eventually forms the lace all around the cake. It's super simple and super easy. The next thing we're going to focus on is the rope going around the cake. This is simply a mold that you can fill with fondant. I used the same blue again and filled this and placed it in the freezer. On the next tiers, I didn't want it to be completely flat. It needed some form of texture, and I decided to use a mesh stencil to create this. This is one of my very favorite ones, also sold by Crystal Candy. I made some royal icing and placed it on the side of the stencil with an offset spatula. Then continued to use a scraper to scrape across the stencil. This transfers the entire pattern onto the wafer paper, which I cut to size for the cake. Make sure to get into every little nook and cranny with the royal icing, otherwise your pattern will be inconsistent and it won't cover the entire paper. Once you're happy that you scraped across the entire thing, you can lift your stencil to reveal the pattern. Lift and place your stencil in water immediately. You do not want this royal icing to set on the stencil, otherwise it will block all the little pores and it will no longer work perfectly. Once your paper with the pattern has dried, you can place this on the cake. I used a little bit of royal icing as a glue and stuck it onto the cake. Make sure that your paper overlaps a little bit if you have to use more than one piece. I used the palette knife to apply my royal icing to the cake. I do think that it could work better if we used a piping bag, and in future I will definitely rather use a piping bag with a small nozzle instead of a palette knife, which is messy and big and sticky all over the place. Nonetheless, I managed to get my wafer paper onto the cake and I think it turned out quite cute. I then went back in with a brush to just touch up all the little pieces and make sure that it's stuck down properly. So back to my rope mold. I took this out the freezer and it was nice and firm, and therefore I could easily peel it out of the mold. I then continued to make a lot more of these so that I could go right around the whole cake. Use a small brush to wet the bottom piece of your cake. This is where you'll put the rope mold. The water makes the wafer paper as well as the fondant a little bit sticky, and therefore your rope mold should stick there easily then. These are the normal rosebud centers you can buy in the shop. They're amazing, but you can't always find them. I'm quickly going to show you how I make my own version of these. You can simply use some floral wire, cut it to size, and then use a long nose pliers to turn a little loop on the end. I used some leftover wafer paper to place through the loop. I then wet this little piece of wafer paper and squished it into a little ball around the wire. You can then push this entire piece into a styrofoam ball. I do this so that that little piece of wafer paper on the inside will dry, and once it's dry, the wire shouldn't just pull out easily. I set them aside and let them dry. I then made a few more in different sizes. Next up is making my sugar flowers. So I started by rolling out some gum paste. I wanted the inside of the rose to be a little bit darker than the outside, and therefore I started with a very ivory inside petal. Roll out the gum paste as thin as you can, and then use your cutter to cut out the rose petals. I've further thinned out my petals by rolling them more and then using the cutter again to cut them back to size. Roll one petal around your rose bud to form the middle centerpiece of your rose. Make sure to tuck all the little corners in. I then use 3 more petal pieces to form the middle piece of my rose. Make sure to overlap them slightly as you roll it around. My advice is to go and pick a rose out your garden or go to the shop and get a rose. This way you can use it as a reference on the table as you go, and then you'll be sure not to make any mistakes. After this we make 5 more petals. These 5 petals get veined unlike the others that we've just made. The veiner creates a texture on the petal that makes it look like a real rose petal. Place the 5 petals on an egg tray or in a tablespoon. You want them to set a little bit but not completely, just to give them a little bit of form. Continue to place your 5 petals all around the rose that you've created before. Overlap them slightly as you've done before. Set aside this entire rose to dry and make 7 more petals. These 7 petals will form the outermost part of your rose. You can also let them dry on an egg tray or in a tablespoon as you've done before, and remember to vein these petals as well. The last step of making a rose is to make the calyx that goes on the bottom. Cut out the rose calyx and roll it a little bit with a ball tool. Glue it onto the bottom of your rose with some petal glue and make sure to curl up the edges so it looks real. I know that mine is white and not green like on a real rose, but I found that if I made it green it would just look completely odd and weird and just wouldn't complement the cake at all. Therefore I stuck to white. I then continued to make a few more things for my cake. I made some vines by turning a florist wire around a long, round object. You can use any of your sculpting tools or a pencil. I continued to make some leaves to complement my roses and used florist tape to bind them all together. I also made some berries with some berry molds and also made some little baby flowers. Once all prepped, I put all these sugar flowers onto my cake and arranged them according to my liking. And this is the result of the entire cake together. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and I will continue to make more of these tutorial videos. I think this cake turned out stunning and I absolutely love the photos of the styled shoot. All the vendors that were part of the styled shoot are absolutely amazing and I love how these photos turned out. I hope you learned something during this tutorial, and let me know in the comments if there's anything specific you would like me to teach in future videos.